Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Perspectives. I am Patrice Bobo-Miles, your host, and I am really, really excited about my guest today. My guest today, you see Nat Bullen over there in that little corner, but it is Natalie Bullen of Unapologetic Wealth. So, Nat, I would love you to just take a minute, let everybody know who you are and what it is that you do.
Hey, I'm Nat Bullen. I own Unapologetic Wealth, and it's a sales coaching and consulting firm that helps entrepreneurs just like you, especially women of color, to earn more money in their businesses, pay themselves more so that they can achieve wealth. We exist to eradicate statistics like how the average Black woman led business only makes $24,000 the entire calendar year. So as long as statistics like that exist, so will Unapologetic Wealth. And I'm honored to be able to do the work that I do. I'm really blessed.
What brought you to starting this type of company? Very specific in who
Yeah.
you target. And so I know I had to come from a place of something. So what's that story?
Um, I think it's the failure of the American dream. I was a gifted child. My mom is very college educated. She has two master's degrees. I come from a long line of educators who collectively taught for over 100 years in the Mobile County public school system. And I went off to college on scholarship, and things just should have went well, and they didn't. I racked up a ton of debt in student loans. I lost my job. I got sick, and I ended up filing bankruptcy. And at that point, I had no luxury in my life. I had not had a child out of wedlock. I had not gotten on drugs. I had not even been on a vacation as an adult. At age 25, I had never been on a vacation, but yet I was filing bankruptcy. I had no luxury. I had no Louis Vuitton. I had nothing. I had none of the trappings of success. When you hear about rich people filing bankruptcy, you expect them to have a pool, trips to Morocco, something. I had nothing to show for it except for stress in my body, fatigue, obesity, headaches, and now a shiny new attorney telling me how we can try to get the trustee on board with our plan. And I realized I had done everything right. I had done everything you were supposed to do. I had been frugal. I had followed Dave Ramsey's advice and depleted my savings down to $1,000 in an attempt to pay off my debt. And when life happened, it happened, and I got screwed. And I decided that I really didn't want that to happen to anybody else. And then I read that like 80% of the Chapter 13 bankruptcies are submitted for Black people, which was shocking.
Really?
So yeah, we're like 4 times more likely to be steered into a 13 repayment plan than a Chapter 7 debt wipe off. So I paid back for 5 years and probably didn't even have to. So even when we try to get out of the debt, we get penalized. And I just didn't like it. I didn't appreciate it. And I thought to myself, if somebody with my education, with an MBA, somebody who actually knows business and gets money still ended up here, what happens to regular people in other industries? What happens to the engineers or the school teachers or the janitors, right? If the finance person can't make it in this system. So I decided that I should help people create a different system. I started off as a money coach and kind of evolved from there. But the work we do is really important because I felt completely downtrodden, that I had failed in this system. It took me years to recognize that this system was never set up for women to have financial autonomy. It was certainly never set up for Black people to have wealth or brown people to have wealth. If you look at founding documents of this country, there was one segment of person who was supposed to have something, and the rest of us were supposed to have nothing. You used to not even be able to vote if you didn't own land. Well, who owned land in the 1700s? So I think there's just so much unlearning and unraveling, and I'm thankful to be able to take a negative occurrence and turn it into an empire, really.
You mentioned a couple of things. I'm gonna pull back a little bit. You mentioned a Chapter 713, a Chapter 7 bankruptcy and a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. So I want you to tell everyone who's listening what is the difference between those two bankruptcy types.
Yeah, a chapter 13 is a debt restructuring. So it is when you go to the court through your attorney, or you can file it yourself and say, I am insolvent, but I do have some money. And so I can make some repayment. And the trustee, who is over the trust of the bankruptcy court, says, sure, we'll let you make payments for 3 to 5 years. And at the end of 5 years, whatever is left, we will wipe clean, we will discharge your bankruptcy, and it'll stay on your credit report for 7 years from when you filed. So you pay for 5, and then 2 more years passes and it falls off your credit report. A chapter 7 is when you go to the courts and say, I cannot repay this debt. These unsecured debts are larger than my income allows. And based on your income, you may be able to completely wipe that debt clean. Typically, a chapter 7 is over within 60 to 90 days. And usually will have like a significant interruption in their income or a significant amount of unsecured debt.
And let's be real clear. That's, debt that you can eventually write off. And there's a huge sector of that, especially if you've gone to college, and that's student loan debt. And student loan debt is the only debt that you cannot get rid of through means of bankruptcy. And how many people, Black and brown people certainly, but people in general who've gone to school are carrying that load of student loan debt because college is getting more expensive. It seems every year.
And we are more likely to take out more loans because we are less likely to have the means at home to be able to pay. Black people are 12% of the US population. We carry 70% of the student loan debt.
And it's
that's why laws won't get passed to help, because this problem really only affects us.
Mm-hmm. It is a big deal. And, I've been doing some reading on it as it stands. And unless there's a specific law passed that overturns that one little sentence and how student loan debt is structured, student loan debt is going to continue to be a huge bomb.
Yeah, it's going to be a bubble.
Blowing it up. I think it's going to blow up a lot of income period.
True.
And student loan debt is the worst debt that anyone can carry, because it is, for those who don't know, student loan debt gets bigger.
Because of the way it's structured. Maybe child support and alimony are bad too, because they tend to grow with penalties and interest like that, right. The IRS. But in general, unsecured debt, it's the worst. I think student loan debt is some of the worst because you can enter into it without any qualifications. So if you want an auto loan, there are guardrails. When you go down to the dealership, they're going to ask about your income. They're going to want a pay stub. They're going to want to see what is the 4 C's of credit, that you have capacity, the capital, the credibility. There are none of these checks for student loans. You can be 17, enrolled in college, and get $30,000 or $40,000 every single year in loans with just 12 hours of credits. I mean, I know people getting back refunds to live. They're paying their rent. They're paying their car note. They are paying for food with that money because they're not getting help from home. Their families aren't able to make significant contributions to them financially. And the system allows it. I do not believe that a person with no job and no means to repay should be allowed to borrow $100,000. Like, that is nuts. And what's worse, you can only do it for college. If I would have said at 18, I want to start a franchise. There's a franchise I've been looking at. Upfront cost is $111,000. It's about $58K a year to run. If I had gone and said, I want this franchise for $111,000, loan me that. Absolutely not. You're absolutely crazy. There's no way. Right. But if I say I want to go to Harvard and pay them $50K a year, they go, sure, no problem. And so that's what's worse about it, is that in the stigma, people blame the students. I've talked to people, usually non-Black people, about student loans, and there's always this, well, you took them out, it's your fault, as though they made sound financial decisions at 18. As
Right.
though we weren't told specifically that we would be flipping burgers at McDonald's if we didn't get this degree. I know I'm not the only person who was told this fast food rhetoric that we will never get a good job if we don't have a degree. Then after you get the degree, it's, oh, we don't even take degrees anymore. We don't care about degrees anymore. Google, Facebook, Apple, all these big companies are removing degree requirements. Well, that's convenient now that I've spent 40K and been charged another 60 in interest. Thank you so much for removing the requirement that required me to get all of this debt. So I think there's it's a really broken system. And I've never had a high paying job. I think that's one of the things that led me into entrepreneurship too, is that at least I'm in control of my income. I didn't have a bad job, but I've never had a 6-figure job. And trying to pay off 6-figure student loan debt with a 5-figure salary is impossible. Like that's
a little upside down.
It's very upside down. And so, especially when you were told in the Occupational Outlook Handbook and the Bureau of Labor Statistics that you were going to get a 6-figure job based on this degree. You actually picked a job, got the credentials that it said for you to get, and then still didn't get the pay that the book said would happen. So I think it's very ignorant that we think, oh, these people who racked up all these student loans are just dumb. They could have done something else. I would love to know what that something else was in 2006, because it certainly never made it to Mobile, Alabama at my high school, John L. LaFleur High. It never made it there. So I think there's a privilege that many people don't realize they have. And so it's easy to villainize somebody who did something different than what you would do. Because I think it's crazy to gamble all your money away. But I don't vilify people for it. It's interesting that student loans become this kind of secret society. We all know we have them. We don't talk about them. We can't get rid of them. But we have to go out into the world and
like an old friend, an old baggage.
Like a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
It's a Ponzi scheme.
It's a Ponzi scheme. You know, interestingly enough, I think it's 6% of the wealth earned in America is 6% is African American. 6%. And women are the most educated group of people in America as far as degrees. So that's a teeny tiny little window of, you know, education and ability to build wealth. So how, because it sounds to me like your business came about really personally, you know, lessons learned. And, you know, there's always the debate, you know, college degree or entrepreneurship. Do you really need a college degree? And, you know, of course, I have an opinion. And there are some jobs that absolutely, you're talking about becoming a doctor, you're talking about becoming a lawyer, you're talking, you know, absolutely. And then there are other jobs that, you know, can you learn them along the way? Then there's trades. And, you know, people who have learned and earned their trades, they're a really high income producing group of people. And then there are those of us who decide that we want to take the journey to entrepreneurship. And I had a job, you know, I had a W-2 job before I decided to really jump into entrepreneurship. And I jumped in, you know, in my early 50s. So I jumped in late, you know. What you're talking to a 24-year-old female, and she's debating, should I go work this job? You know, but I really want to do this. What would be your discussion as far as, you know, these are my pros for entrepreneurship, these are my cons for entrepreneurship, and this is what the system tells you, but this is what the system is?
I would tell a 24-year-old to get a job. Get a job so that you can get some experience. The reason that I won't even say great as an entrepreneur, proficient, because I have a lot to learn. The reason that I am proficient at entrepreneurship is because of my work experience. I worked at Verizon and was able to get a lot of outbound sales training. Verizon has one of the best sales trainings in the world. I mean, they have a world-class program to teach you consultative sales. And I worked at DirecTV where I did inbound customer service. I've been called racial slurs. I've been yelled at and screamed at over iPhones. I've had to work overtime. I've had to make friends with people who didn't have the same religious or political beliefs as me, but we sat in the same cubicle together. I've had to work from 3:30 to midnight. I've had to be up at 6 in the morning. It builds resilience and character. Okay. And then working at Wells Fargo is the reason I have this job. It's how I got my securities licenses. You cannot get those yourself. You must be sponsored by a firm. So in layman's terms, I can trade stocks in the stock market. You cannot just decide you want to do that. You have to be sponsored by a firm. A company that's already doing it has to say, yes, we approve of Natalie learning this material. You can't just pay and sit for them. So without a job, I wouldn't even have the skill to be able to run the business. And I think there's a big cloud of entrepreneurship works for everybody. It's the right move for everybody. I'm a super accidental entrepreneur. It was not my intention at all. Okay. And it is more work than working has ever been. So if you hate working, if you don't like working and you don't have a work ethic, running a business is certainly not the answer, because in the beginning, it's a lot of work. I would tell that 24-year-old to get their personal credit to something excellent, like a 780 FICO score. I would encourage them to create a cash cushion. I had about $35,000 cash when I started my business. That was my life savings, but I also live in a low cost of living area like Alabama. Had I lived in somewhere like DC, probably would have beefed that up to closer to 100. And yes, I saved that on a $48,000 a year salary. Right? I made a lot of concessions. I didn't have children because I knew I was poor. And that if I had kids, it was going to strap me even more, because then I'd have childcare and I'd be limited in terms of the shifts that I could work and the things that I could do. So I would tell that 24-year-old, like, focus on becoming financially independent from your parents in case you're still getting help there, and then work to become financially solvent, and then work to become financially stable. Then you can start thinking about, how can I leverage what I've earned to create something that's mine, and get you a good coach or a mentor. And don't quit your job until your business makes enough to pay you what you made at the job for this many consecutive months. 6. This is not, I got one client and I quit my job. And revenue and take home pay are not the same. So if you're making $60,000 a year, okay, that's your pay. What about your benefits, your 401k, your college reimbursement, your student loan payment? Your total compensation is probably 70 or 80,000. That's what your business needs to be able to pay you before you decide, I'm just going to take the leap. Now, I know people who quit their job and it worked out for them, but I can tell you it is stressful, especially if you're not married, if you're your own breadwinner and you have to come up with these things. Nobody talks about health insurance premiums. Cobra was almost $1,000 a month for just me. It was $1,600 a month for me and my husband. We're non-smokers. We are young, healthy people. It was crazy. My mortgage is $905. I was paying $900 in mortgage and $1,600 in health insurance. Nobody talks about that. We just tell people, leap off the cliff, quit your job. Jobs are bad. You know, college is bad, all these things. But I wouldn't be in the position to attract the clients that I have now if I didn't have the decorum and the experience and the posture of corporate. And you could tell when you're dealing with an entrepreneur that ain't never had a real job, because the way that they act and their unprofessionalism is unattractive. So
It's a whole different thing, isn't it?
Job.
Say again?
I would tell her to keep that job.
You know what? I appreciate the fact that you were so transparent, because you're not saying anything that I wouldn't say. So I definitely agree with you. So that helps. But you know, I've been in conversations with, just work hard and know you're going to work around the clock. And, this is the hardest you'll ever work in your life, but it's going to work out. And it doesn't work like that. Because it's what number one, how can you relate to other people? And then when you are talking about working with individuals, you do want to exude, not just a sense of confidence, but a sense of corporate and what corporate brings to the table. You need to have that level of professionalism. And if you've never experienced that level of professionalism, you don't know how to show up with that level of professionalism.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people who started their business as their side hustle.
Mhm.
And I've heard a lot of people kind of crap, on that as well. And which is fine. We're all allowed to have our opinions, but I think that it's reckless. Sometimes it is my opinion that it is reckless to tell people or to job shame people that you should be able to just do that side hustle. And as long as you have that full-time job, you're never going to be able to grow what that business is. You're never going to be able to, make that work. And I think that I think it's reckless, and I think it's an unfair statement, because I don't think anyone can ever really measure the desire, the passion, and the work ethic of another individual. You know what I mean?
I agree. Well, and I also think it's ignorant, because as we know, there are a lot of broke entrepreneurs. And I don't say that in a mean way. I say it in a factual way. So there's this confusion that, owning a business is superior to working a job, even if you don't have the financial means to make it work. I can't tell you how many people I meet and have coached in the past who really believe it is better for them to be self-employed than for them to be financially solvent in a job. Like, they have been so conditioned that basically any form of entrepreneurship is better than the alternative. And that is very risky. You need to make sure, especially if you are a young person, that you set yourself up for retirement, right? Social Security has not gone away. It still exists. We're going to pray that that continues to happen. And your Social Security is based off of your highest earning quarters in your adult working life. So by taking on a business that can't pay you, doesn't make much revenue, you are lowering your lifetime benefit in your Social Security. That is risky, right? You are impacting your ability to grow your legacy by having children. You're impacting your ability to be able to buy a home. You impact your ability to be able to live somewhere safe that's not crime ridden. You impact your ability to be able to stay healthy. I'm blessed that I can have health insurance, but also a functional doctor, also a nutritionist, also a meal delivery service. I can't have those things if I'm poor. When I was poor, I ate poorly. I did not eat nutritious food. I did not eat good food. I ate ramen noodles. I ate salty, fried food because that's what was cheap and available to me. And I'm still undoing the health effects from a decade of not being able to afford good food, organic food, chicken breast. I went pescatarian and almost starved. A pound of salmon was $13.99. My food budget was $50 a week. A week. That is all that was including tax and tip. $50. It was not pleasant. So I don't know why there's been this rhetoric of, boss or die. You have to be an entrepreneur or you're not successful. And what's worse is the entrepreneurs who perpetuate this crap. I don't know if it's self-aggrandizement. I don't know what it is, but who's going to work for you? I'm currently looking for an executive assistant. They're going to be a W-2 employee. So if I believe that everyone should be an entrepreneur, who am I going to staff my company with? That rhetoric is flawed from so many ways, and it harms people who don't have the lived experience and the wisdom yet to know that it's a lie. I'm only 35. There's a lot of things I don't know are a lie. In my 20s, I was very gullible. You don't know until you know. So I'm so glad that nobody pushed that off on me in my 20s. I need to quit my job, throw away my success that I've been able to achieve, and push myself into a business. Not to mention, I didn't even know what kind of business I would start. I feel like God monetized my ministry to keep me encouraged. I had already been doing financial literacy in my 20s. I had already been going to churches and schools and universities and speaking for free. I spoke for free on Super Bowl Sunday. Most people wouldn't do that, especially not football fans like good old Natalie, right? But I felt like God was telling me to do more, and he just gave me the means to be able to make my ministry larger. But had I gone about this from a business at 27 with a business plan, with what money? With what time? With what maturity? I wasn't even in a place where it was logical for me to start a business. I wouldn't have had any breadth and depth of experience to coach anybody with. I think it's very dangerous. I think the side hustle thing is wise until you can get a foothold and figure out what you really want to do. And I don't think it's failure to go back to a job. Unpopular opinion, when people go back to work, I cheer and applaud. I love dualpreneurs because their nervous system is very regulated. They're not worried about how they're going to pay their mortgage on the 1st. And there are entrepreneurs right now on January 16th wondering how they are going to pay their mortgage on February the 1st. There are people who didn't pay it on January the 1st. There are people who didn't pay it on December the 1st. And there's still this chorus of people telling them to stay the course and don't give up. I would not ruin my financial solvency for anybody or anything. And we take for granted our youth until we get older. But if you've ever met somebody 60, 70, 80 years old who is not doing well financially, who is not healthy enough to work, it's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking
in the world to meet senior citizens who are poor. It just breaks my heart because they don't have the opportunity. So when you're in your youth, your prime earning years, earn however that looks like. I'm okay with it. Earn in your youth, collect the biggest social security that you can, anchor to your earning potential. It's the greatest asset that you have when you're an able-bodied young person. And I think throwing it away just to be able to put on your tombstone and entrepreneur lies here is strange.
I love it. So tell me this. Give me an idea of what is some of the best advice or coaching you think you have given some of your mentees?
Most of what I teach people is around pricing, not to get super deep, but women in general have not really been empowered in this way. We don't negotiate salaries at jobs as often as men. We don't invest in the stock market as often as men, anything that is perceived as a risk. And so most of what I teach my mentees is around how do you learn to take a calculated risk? And a lot of what we've been talking about today is just that. Don't go jump off the cliff with no money. You need to take a calculated risk, right? Also around pricing, I have found that women will be experts. So, I had a client who was a real estate investor. She was a real estate agent. She had been in financial services. She'd been a loan officer. She had 7 or 8 Airbnb properties. And she taught people how to do Airbnb arbitrage. And she was charging like she was brand new. I mean, you would have thought this was her first class or first course ever by the price point on the services. And I tell people, if you charged like an old white man, you probably had the business that you want, because they are trained to focus on the value of the service. We are trained to watch people's pocketbooks and decide how much our clients can or can't pay based on what we think we know about them. And that hookup culture that's very popular in Black and brown communities. Oh, if I like you, I'll charge you less. No, if you like me, you should pay me more. But we just aren't indoctrinated into that belief system, right? Now, when it comes to money, now when it comes to other stuff like dating, because we've been over backwards for these trifling men, and I've been there myself personally. We like this man, so we're willing to do stuff we wouldn't ordinarily do. But when we like our business, we're willing to give it all away for free. It's very strange. So it's normally around like, how can you remove your net worth from your self-worth? Like, how can you detach those things so that you don't start to make decisions based on how much money is in your personal capacity right now? Because if you're selling $1 million house, it's $1 million house no matter where you live. You could be
Mhm.
homeless, you could be living in a tent, you could be sleeping in your car. It doesn't diminish the value of the home that you are looking to sell, right? But for some reason, when it comes to coaching, consulting, creative services like websites and branding, people tend to want to charge in alignment with how they feel about themselves. And
Mhm.
they don't do that with any other kind of product. There's no other kind of product where people say how good I feel. My self-esteem should drive the price point of this thing that I'm selling. So that's where most of my mentorship comes in.
Now you said it right the first time, the fussing. And it's interesting. And you and I, we've crossed paths before because similarly, I had got into um, basically financial coaching, right? And it was managing the emotional aspect of it. So, everything you said just like made my little bells happy, right? Um, but I also know, as I've shifted more into life coaching, I still have that emphasis on emotional money management, but with the life coaching, when I um, first started to tell my friends, I'm a certified life coach. This is what I'm going to be doing. Girl, I need a life coach. You gonna give me a discount? And I'm like,
Why do we do this?
I
First
just
thing.
look at them, and of course, me. I'm like, why is it your friends always want to ask for a discount? And I go, no, I'm not going to give you a discount.
And
No.
this is what I mean. This is also why I don't believe in selling to. I actually don't coach friends and family.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
If they need advice or something, but I won't send an invoice or take a payment from someone I consider a friend or a family member for any reason because the authority bias has been broken.
yep,
They do not see you as an authority, to see you as a friend. And
right,
that is not something that people feel like they should pay for. I shouldn't have to
right.
pay my friend. I shouldn't have to listen to my friend. Like, oh yeah, girl, you told me that advice. Yeah, I was half listening, but they
But
will
I
listen to a
paid
stranger.
somebody, and they told me the same thing, but it has more merit because I
We
paid
were
them, and
we
they're
were
not
on
my friend.
Clubhouse together, and we both know this is true. How many of those people used to come up on stage and go, "My coach that I paid told me to do X, but I came in this free Clubhouse room and listened to y'all, and now I think I'm gonna do Y." Happened all the time. Those people were not uncoached. Those people
Make it make
had
sense.
coaches that they were paying thousands of dollars, yet they were still surfing the internet for free advice. So,
And
and this,
the you get what you pay for. If it's free, I'm just saying. I'm
I
just
agree with
saying.
that. I think it's weird as a phenomenon. I don't really understand why people feel like they have an entitlement to your gift just because they've known you for
Mhm.
a long time. But I think that's one of the pitfalls of selling an info product. If you sell a course or coaching or consulting and people don't see it as a product, they only see it as your time, they feel entitled to your time as a friend. If
Right.
you sell a
Right.
physical product, you don't run into this as much. I have a client that sells art, like physical art, paintings and prints. Nobody goes, I think you should paint for me for free. She sends
Right.
them to the website and they buy the print on the website. But
Right.
when people think it's just your time, just to like my time is nothing. If it's just your time, if it's not something with a SKU or a barcode, they think, oh, I can slide in here. I think just setting boundaries is the key. My friends and family know better. They don't ask me for money because they know I don't play that. And they don't ask me to coach them for free because they know I don't play that. So I think
Mhm.
boundaries beget more boundaries. So the good thing about setting it might be hard in the beginning, but as an ongoing basis, it really cuts down on unpleasant conversations if you set a rule from the beginning and you stick to it.
Mhm. And the thing about boundaries is and this is as women in general, we set boundaries, and then slowly we let people push what those boundaries are. And in essence, really, it's a matter of you just not having enough respect for your space, your time, and your boundaries. You're not valuing the reason you set those boundaries, why you need those boundaries. So
That's
I'm
profound. The why.
I'm putting that out
Yeah.
there for anybody who picks this up and can hear it. Um, and it's a lesson that I learned. I mean, it's a lesson I had to learn. And when you have people who are people pleasers,
Yeah.
That's probably the hardest lesson they have to learn. So, I love that once you set the boundary, it's set. I love that you're managing to be accountable to yourself and to those boundaries because they matter. And it's those small, and I say small, but it's that small recognition of the importance of what that is that
Yep.
really can propel you to a greater area of success. So, definitely appreciate what it is that you had to say. So, if somebody wants to get a hold of Miss Nat Bullen because they want to, have a discovery call, find out your services. How do they do that?
You can find me at www.unapologeticwealth.com. The site is beautiful, if I do say so myself. Listen, we worked hard on the site, okay? And you can find out all about me, and you can book a call, and you can see what my services are and what they cost, because I believe in transparency. So that's how people can find me, or they can follow me on Instagram. I'll actually be doing more on IG this year, and my Instagram handle is at Unapologetic Wealth.
Actually, I follow you on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. I am going to be doing more on Instagram this year because I apparently have dominated Facebook, and I already post like 10 times a day over there. So if I'm still bored, I guess I got to branch out.
Well, I mean, both of us know the importance of social media marketing in this era. So, learning how to navigate what that is. So
That's true. I actually
um,
enjoy it though, so I'm really blessed that it's not something that I dislike. When I meet people, they're like, "I hate social media," and I'm like,
mhm.
"It's the easiest way to get clients. It is free." And in the beginning, I needed a free marketing channel. Okay, I did not
Right.
have a marketing budget at all. I had $0 I could spend on marketing. All I could spend was my time. So I am
Mhm.
thankful for Mark Zuckerberg for allowing me to make hundreds of thousands of dollars for free on his platform every year. Okay, I
And grow
think that
your
is so
network.
kind. I think it is so kind to this billionaire that don't know me to allow me to post and sell and entertain folks day in, day out on his platform, and I ain't paid him a red cent. Matter of fact, lately he started paying me. I think it's a blessing. Yeah,
What?
I'm in the creator little program.
Ah,
It's gone down. I used to get 300 or 400 a month. Now it's like 75 a month. I said, all these posts I'm posting, come on up off that
you're
money,
messing with
Mark.
the algorithm so they don't have to pay you.
Either way, I'm getting paid to use Facebook and
Right.
paid to acquire clients for free. So
Right.
I'm gonna take it. I feel
I don't
blessed.
blame you. Well, our time is about up, but I certainly appreciate you taking the time to come and chat on my podcast with me. Like I said, pretty low key.
It's
I
fun.
I met Natalie on that little app that used to be Clubhouse. I don't know what it is now. I haven't been
It's
on it
weird
in
now. Yeah,
I hadn't
we
been
don't
on
know.
it in almost a year, honestly.
It's weird
So,
now. I was there last month.
oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
strange. Yeah.
But we were in a lot of different spaces together, really just talking about money and money management,
Mhm.
um, emotional money management, whether
Yeah.
it's it's you and a partner or spouse, or even group money counseling, and so for what both of us do, it has just kind of grown from that singular focus and into what it is that we have. Natalie is a wealth of information. I like that she is transparent. I
Mhm.
like that she is no nonsense. And I like that she's straight to the point. Because when you're working with people, working with money, and helping them to develop better habits and grow their wealth, you really don't want somebody who's going to beat around the bush with what needs to be done. And you have to, and it is my opinion, when you are looking for a coach, you have to work with someone who's not afraid to tell you the hard stuff, because there's always hard stuff that has to be told. So she's a phenomenal coach. She knows her business. I know that she can help anyone on here who's looking to grow the wealth and the practices, the money growing practices of what that business is. So I will put all of your contact information that you provided me in my little, hi, welcome to, got
Oh
my
yeah,
little
the show notes.
description.
Yeah.
Yeah, my little show notes in my description. Yeah, I don't know what stuff is. I just go on and do it. Um, I, I learn as I go. I jumped into
Oh,
podcasting like head first. So it's
I'm
been
a
a
fan
fun,
of that. Yeah, you're
it's been a
smarter
fun
than
little
me.
journey.
I committed to 1 year of daily Monday through Friday episodes. My podcast has 260 episodes. So I know what it's like to jump into something and then halfway through it go, wow, this was an actual commitment that I made.
Yep, 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 yep.
A little bit.
Yeah, but it's growing slowly, and that's good. Gives me time to shift focus here and there, which is what I do periodically. I didn't know. But I appreciate you all for popping in today. Certainly, you have questions for Natalie. You want to get a hold of Natalie, just check the show notes. Her info is in there. And I want you all to remember that your day is what you make it. So choose to make your day a great day.
I love it.